The Galactic Trade Summit on Station Kepler 442 was in full swing, with representatives from 47 species mingling in the Grand Atrium. Emma Chin stood near the refreshment dispensers, her standard-issue diplomatic uniform feeling smaller with each passing moment as the Vraxian delegation circled around her like predators. "Look at the tiny human," chirped Kretak, his compound eyes gleaming with amusement. The insectoid alien towered over Emma, his chitinous exoskeleton clicking as he gestured to his companions. So soft, so weak. How did such fragile creatures ever leave their world? Laughter rippled through the gathered aliens. Harsh barks from the Canadorn, whistling hisses from the Serpentii, and deep rumbles from the crystalline Lithians. Emma's jaw tightened, but she maintained her composure. This wasn't her first rodeo with alien superiority complexes. "We manage," she said evenly, taking a sip of her water. "Manage?" A Canadorn named Vexol stepped forward, his lupin features twisted in a sneer. "Your species has no natural armor, no venom, no claws. You can't even see in multiple spectrums. What do you have besides your pathetic technology?" Emma set down her glass carefully. "More than you'd think." This only provoked more laughter. The crowd was growing now, drawn by the spectacle. Even Ambassador Thalrex, the hulking reptilian who'd been negotiating mining rights with the human delegation, had paused to watch. "Oh, this I must hear," Kretak buzzed. "What could humans possibly have that makes them worthy of standing among the great species of the galaxy?" Before Emma could respond, a commotion at the atrium's entrance made every head turn. Jason Martinez strode through the automated doors, and beside him padded something that made the entire room fall silent. The creature was massive, easily 5 feet at the shoulder, with a coat of thick gray-brown fur and eyes that held an ancient, primal intelligence. Its paws made no sound on the polished floor, but every muscle beneath that fur rippled with restrained power. "Sorry I'm late, Emma," Jason called out cheerfully, seemingly oblivious to the sudden tension that had gripped the room. Security took forever to process Rex's clearance. "Rex." The beast lifted its massive head, scanning the crowd with those penetrating eyes. What is that?" Kretak's voice had lost its mocking tone. "This." Jason looked down at his companion with obvious affection. "This is a dog. Canis lupus familiaris. Meet Rex." "A dog," Vexol repeated slowly, his ears flat against his skull. The Canadorn's nose was working overtime, and Emma could see the visible confusion in his stance. "That's impossible. I scanned your species database. Dogs are listed as companions. Pets. Non-threatening." Emma allowed herself a small smile. "They are companions. The best we've ever had. But the size, the predator indicators." Thalrex had unconsciously taken a step back. "Your database said these creatures were domesticated. Harmless." "Domesticated, yes," Jason said, running his hand along Rex's broad head. "Harmless? That depends entirely on who you ask." A Serpentii delegate hissed nervously. "I don't understand. Why would you keep a predator as a companion?" "Because 30,000 years ago," Emma began, her voice cutting through the confused murmurs, "our ancestors made a choice. Instead of fighting the wolves that hunted alongside us, we joined forces. We formed a partnership, a bond." Rex sat at Jason's command, but his eyes never stopped moving, cataloging every being in the room. Several aliens instinctively moved back. "Partnership?" Kretak's antennae twitched frantically. "You partnered with an apex predator?" "We did better than that," Jason said quietly. "We became family." As if to demonstrate, he knelt beside Rex, and the massive dog immediately pressed against him, tail wagging. The contrast was stunning. This killing machine, this bundle of muscle and fong, showing absolute trust and affection to a creature a fraction of its size. "Your species domesticated wolves." Thalrex sounded odd. "The same wolves that hunt in packs? That bring down prey 10 times their size." Emma nodded. "We didn't just domesticate them. We evolved together. They learned to read our facial expressions, to understand our emotions. We learned to trust them with our children, our homes, our lives." "Impossible," Vexol breathed. "My species, we Canadorn evolved from pack predators. It took us millions of years to develop civilization. The instinct to hunt, to kill, it's barely controlled even now. You're saying humans just convinced similar creatures to live peacefully?" "Not peacefully," Jason corrected, his hand still resting on Rex's head. They're still predators. Still warriors. We didn't break them. We directed that strength toward protecting us instead of hunting us. As if summoned by those words, a Lethean in the back of the crowd made a sudden, jerky movement. Perhaps it was accidental. Perhaps the crystalline being simply shifted its weight too quickly. Rex's response was instantaneous. The growl that emerged from deep in his chest was something primordial, a sound that bypassed logic and spoke directly to the hindbrain. It was low, resonant, and carried within it the promise of ancient violence, the echo of 10,000 years of breeding, training, and selective enhancement. It was the sound that had protected human campfires from the darkness, that had guarded castle walls, that had crossed trenches in war. The effect on the room was electric. Every alien jaw, mandible, beak, or otherwise, dropped. The Serpentii actually fell over in their haste to retreat. Vexul's fur stood completely on end, and the Canadorn released an involuntary whimper. Even the mighty Thalrex, who'd hunted on death worlds across 3 sectors, took 3 full steps backward. The Lethean who'd moved froze completely, its crystalline structure actually dimming in fear. Jason placed a calming hand on Rex's shoulder. "Easy, boy. Friend." The growl stopped immediately. Rex's tail wagged once, and he looked up at Jason with what could only be described as adoration. The silence in the atrium was profound. Finally, Kretak found his voice. It was much smaller now. You travel with these creatures?" "Willingly." "We don't just travel with them," Emma said, her voice gentle but firm. "We trust them with our children. They sleep in our beds. They sit at our tables. And in return, they would die for us without hesitation." "But why?" Thalrex whispered. "Why would you want such a partnership?" "The danger." "Because," Jason interrupted, standing up. "You asked what humans have that makes us special. This is it. We don't just conquer. We don't just survive. We befriend. We turn the most dangerous predator our world ever produced into humanity's best friend. And if we could do that with wolves 30,000 years ago, imagine what we can do now." He looked around at the gathered delegates, and Emma saw understanding dawn in their eyes. "So when you ask if humans are weak," Jason continued, "remember this. We're the species that looked at apex predators and saw family. We're the species that earned the loyalty of creatures that could kill us with a thought. We're the species that turned wolves into dogs, and we did it through nothing but patience, trust, and mutual respect." Rex barked once, a sharp, happy sound, and the entire assembly flinched. Emma smiled. "Any other questions about human weakness?" There were none. As the summit resumed, the aliens gave the human delegation considerably more space and more respect. Rex lay at Jason's feet during the negotiations, a living reminder that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their weapons, that it was their ability to forge bonds where others saw only enemies. And that, more than anything else, made them truly dangerous. The Indie.